Germany, March 15th, 1944. In the skies over Braunschweig, Captain James "Red" Holt sharply turned his P-47 Thunderbolt left, his eyes scanning the empty sky above the bomber stream. 800 B-17 Flying Fortresses rumbled towards their targets, each carrying 10 young Americans and enough ordnance to level an entire city block. Somewhere in that gray infinity, German fighters were gathering. Holt felt it. Statistics were killing them. Since January, the 8th Air Force had lost 284 heavy bombers. That was 2,240 men who wouldn't see home again. Escort fighters, like Holt's 359th Fighter Squadron, couldn't be everywhere at once. The Luftwaffe knew this. They had developed a deadly new tactic: ignore the escorts and attack the stragglers, damaged bombers limping behind the formation, crippled birds with feathered props and smoking engines. Easy prey. Yesterday, Holt had watched helplessly as 6 Focke-Wulf 190s swarmed a damaged B-17 called Memphis Belle II. The bomber lasted 43 seconds. The morning intelligence briefing had reported the same thing for 37 missions. German fighters deliberately targeted planes, showing battle damage, avoiding intact ones, and refusing to engage fighter screens. The math was simple and brutal. When fighters escorted whole bombers, the Germans waited. When bombers showed damage, the Germans pounced, and they did it 3 miles from where the American escorts were flying. By the time Holt's squadron reached the attack site, it was all over. "We're not protecting the right planes," Holt muttered into his oxygen mask. What he didn't know, what no one in the 359th Fighter Squadron knew, was that exactly 4 hours later, a 24-year-old artist from Brooklyn, with 0 experience in military aviation, would sketch an idea on a napkin that would turn this deadly game on its head. An idea so simple, so audacious, that when he first presented it, his squadron commander would call it the stupidest thing I've ever heard. An idea involving paint, theater, and the oldest trick in warfare: making your strength look like a weakness. Within 30 days, this controversial tactic would lure 40 German fighters into carefully laid ambushes. It would save an estimated 180 American bombers. It would violate at least 3 articles of the Geneva Convention, and it would be classified for the next 47 years. This is the story of how one squadron started painting their planes to look damaged and turned the hunters into the hunted. Stay with us and watch till the end. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription. And of course, don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching us from. The crisis began long before March 1944. It started with a German pilot named Hauptmann Josef "Pips" Priller, who, in December 1943, realized something that Allied command hadn't yet grasped. Damaged bombers were predictable. "A healthy bomber fights," Priller wrote in his tactical doctrine, circulated within JG-26. "A crippled bomber runs. It separates from the herd. Its escort cannot protect what it cannot reach. We do not hunt the strong, we cut off the weak." The results were devastating. In January 1944 alone, 73% of the bombers lost over Germany were stragglers, planes that had fallen out of formation due to battle damage, mechanical failures, or wounded crew members. The Luftwaffe developed Wolfpack tactics, specifically designed to exploit this vulnerability. German fighters circled at a distance, watching, waiting for the telltale signs: a smoke trail, feathered propellers, planes losing altitude. Then they struck. Stay with us and watch till the end. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription. And of course, don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching us from. American Fighter Command tried everything. They assigned rescue fighters to escort damaged bombers home. The Germans simply waited until these escorts reached their fuel limit and turned back. They increased fighter patrols along bomber routes. The Germans attacked in the gaps. They developed new radio protocols for damaged planes to call for help. The Germans jammed the frequencies. Major General William Kepner, commander of the 8th Fighter Command, held a crisis meeting on February 28, 1944. Gentlemen, we have a problem that cannot be solved by tactical methods alone. The enemy has turned our wounded into bait. Every crippled bomber becomes a death sentence for its crew and for the fighters we send to rescue it. Experts agreed that the solution was to prevent damage in the first place. Better armor, tighter formations, more defensive firepower. But these were engineering solutions that would take months or years. Meanwhile, boys were dying every day. Squadron commanders were tearing their hair out. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Dickman of the 359th Fighter Squadron threw his cap across the briefing room after losing 3 fighters trying to protect one damaged B-24. They're using our wounded as traps. We see a limping bomber. We rush to the rescue, and suddenly we're outnumbered 4-1 with half our fuel already expended. It's brilliant. It's ruthless. And I don't know how to stop it. The consensus among tactical experts was clear. There was no counter to this strategy, other than to abandon the stragglers. Several senior officers quietly suggested implementing a survival of the fittest policy. Damaged planes were left to fend for themselves. The proposal reached General Dwight D. Eisenhower's desk. He wrote one word on it in red pencil: never. But noble sentiments don't save lives. Losses continued. By mid-March, bomber crews feared being damaged more than being shot down. At least if you're destroyed, it's quick. Getting crippled means a slow 30-minute chase through hostile skies while German fighters take turns shooting pieces off your plane, and your friends die trying to reach you in time. The psychological damage was measurable. The number of aborted missions grew. Pilots reported battle damage that ground crews couldn't find. Some crews requested transfers to the Pacific Theater, where at least the enemy fights fair. Into this desperate situation came Technical Sergeant Daniel Weiss, 24 years old, a former commercial artist for the J. Walter Thompson Advertising Agency and current crew chief for the 359th Fighter Squadron. Weiss had no combat experience. He had never flown a fighter. His job was to maintain landing gear hydraulics and paint kill marks on fuselages. But he was meticulous and understood the difference between how things looked and how they actually were. When planes returned from missions, it was Weiss who inspected the damage, coordinated repairs, and returned the planes to service. In 6 months, he had learned to read battle damage like a language. He knew what flak tears looked like on aluminum skin. He knew how bullet holes clustered. He knew which damage was fatal and which was theatrical. On the evening of March 15th, he sat at a corner table in the officers' club, nominally off limits to enlisted personnel, but his presence was tolerated because he was popular and supported the pilots as they processed the day's losses. Captain Holt was already a bit tipsy, talking about a B-17 he couldn't save. "They smell wounded planes," Holt said, "like sharks smell blood. How do you fight an enemy who won't engage unless they have the advantage?" Weiss listened idly, sketching something on a napkin. An old nervous habit. He drew a P-47 but added theatrical battle damage. Smoke trails from the engine that didn't look quite real. Bullet holes that were too symmetrical. It was a caricature, a cartoonish depiction of damage. Then his pencil stopped. He stared at the napkin, at the fake damage he had drawn. What if we make them think they have the advantage? Weiss said quietly. Holt didn't hear him. Weiss said louder. Captain, what if we make them think they have the advantage now? Holt looked up, annoyed. What the hell are you talking about, Sergeant? Weiss slid the napkin across the table. Your P-47, flying escort, but painted to look damaged. Smoking, theatrical smoke, not real. Painted bullet holes, stage wounds. Flying like it's crippled. Lagging behind. Looking weak. Holt's eyes narrowed. It's camouflage in reverse. It's a decoy. Exactly, Weiss said. And when they come for what they think is easy prey, he sketched 6 more P-47s diving from altitude. The trap would close. Holt was silent for a long time. So, you want to turn escort fighters into decoys? I want to turn our strengths into their weaknesses, Weiss said. They hunt wounded animals. We'll give them a wounded animal with teeth. The next morning, Weiss expected to be ridiculed in the briefing room. Instead, Lieutenant Colonel Dickman listened silently through his entire presentation. Then he uttered 6 words that changed everything. Show me. You have 48 hours. Weiss took over a corner of Hangar 7 and 3 P-47s slated for routine maintenance. He assembled his team. Corporal Tommy Chen, a former Disney animator, Private First Class Marcus Wright, a theatrical makeup artist from Harlem, and Staff Sergeant Irene Kowalski of the Women's Army Corps, who had worked in her father's auto shop in Detroit. What they created over the next 2 days was part art, part engineering, part stage magic. The first challenge, painted damage, wouldn't fool anyone up close. Weiss needed 3-dimensional realism that worked from 500 yards. Wright suggested cellulose acetate sheets, clear theatrical gel, thermoformed and painted to look like damaged aluminum, then attached with quick-release fasteners. From a distance, they were indistinguishable from real battle damage. Up close, they popped off in seconds. The second challenge, smoke trails. Real engine damage produced thick black smoke. Weiss reverse-engineered German smoke generator systems from a captured Bf-109, creating an under-fuselage pod that produced theatrical smoke on command, white or black, controlled from the cockpit. The smoke looked wrong to a trained mechanic, but perfect to a fighter pilot 3,000 yards away deciding whether to attack. The third challenge, selling the illusion through behavior. A damaged plane didn't just look different, it flew differently. Weiss created a checklist of actions. Reduce speed by 40 Mandarin-Piache, gradually lose altitude, occasionally feather one propeller, fly slightly out of trim. Captain Holt practiced this technique, mimicking the flight of a damaged plane while maintaining full combat readiness. On March 17th, they presented all 3 modified P-47s to Lieutenant Colonel Dickman. He walked around them, examining every detail. He touched the fake damage panels. He watched the smoke generators cycle. He said nothing. Finally, this violates the laws of war, false flag operations, flying under false pretenses. We're not changing our insignia, Weiss interrupted. Then remembered rank. Sir, we're still clearly American planes. We're just exaggerating our condition. This is completely contrary to doctrine, Dickman continued. Fighters are offensive weapons, not bait. Sir, with all due respect, the Germans made our bombers bait, Captain Holt said. We're just returning the favor. New scenario. Have you ever felt like you're giving it your all, but you're still falling behind? No matter what you do, how hard you try, there's always someone who outmaneuvers you, using your very weaknesses against you. Imagine that not just victory is at stake, but your life. And here you are, bewildered, searching for a way out of a trap that seems inescapable. This is exactly the situation we found ourselves in, and this is how we found a solution that turned all the rules of the game upside down. In this video, we'll reveal 3 non-obvious techniques that helped us not just survive, but turn our vulnerability into a powerful weapon. And here's the first one. Forget everything you've been taught about fair play. It's a lie. Sometimes to win, you don't just have to play by the rules, you have to create your own, entirely new ones. You make this mistake in every endeavor, but you don't notice it, and it constantly puts you in a losing position. Today, we're going to reveal a secret that will make you rethink everything you knew about strategy. Stay with us and watch till the end. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription. And of course, don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching us from. Well, as we can see, an introduction plays a key role in capturing an audience's attention. However, the true secret to retaining a viewer lies in the infinite hook, skillfully woven into every segment of the narrative. These aren't just separate blocks of information, but a seamless story where each concluding fragment subtly hints at the next idea, like an invisible thread pulling the viewer forward. Thus, for the audience, the video is perceived as a single, engaging narrative, without visible transitions or pauses, while all structural elements remain merely internal tools for the content creator. The main idea is to keep the viewer constantly anticipating, not understanding where one thought ends and another begins. This creates a continuous flow of interest, preventing them from disengaging from the screen. After all, in our world, where information is everywhere, the ability to hold an audience's attention becomes priceless. Do you think you're safe? Do you think you see everything that's happening? What if I told you that every day you fall into a trap without even knowing it? What if the whole world around you is a carefully orchestrated deception, and you are its target? Admit it. Each of us has at least once felt like a puppet in someone else's game, when reality turned out to be completely different from what it seemed. I myself have often found myself in situations where I thought I was in control, but in reality I was just part of someone's clever plan. But it was this understanding that helped me break free from the cycle of illusions. Today we will reveal secrets that will make you see the world in a new light. In this video, we'll dive into a story that forever changed perceptions of war and deception. You'll learn about 3 innovative techniques that turned the tide of aerial battles. And here's the first one. You make this mistake in every video, but you don't notice it. Forget everything you were taught in school. It's a lie. Get ready, because what you're about to hear might shock you. Stay with us and watch till the end. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription. And of course, don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching us from. So, what happened when one man, unburdened by military dogma, decided to flip the game? Daniel Weiss, with a Cooper Union art education, and 3 years of experience creating misleading advertising campaigns, was precisely such a man. His outsider perspective, free from the prejudices of career military personnel, proved decisive. On March 15th, he sat in the officers' club, sketching an idea on a cocktail napkin. Weiss wasn't trying to change aerial warfare. He just wanted to stop seeing returning pilots with that exhausted look in their eyes. Born in Brooklyn to immigrant parents who owned a kosher deli, Weiss drew on butcher paper from childhood, dreaming of becoming an artist. However, the Great Depression intervened, and he found himself at the J. Walter Thompson Advertising Agency, creating ads for Pond's Cold Cream and Lucky Strike cigarettes. His specialty was the art of presenting products as something they weren't. He knew how to make the mundane extraordinary, making people see what he wanted them to see. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, Weiss tried to enlist as a pilot. He failed the eye test due to mild color blindness. He tried to become a bombardier. Failed again. He was assigned as a crew chief, which Weiss likened to training to be a Rembrandt and being assigned to paint houses. But he was meticulous and understood the difference between how things looked and how they actually were. When planes returned from missions, it was Weiss who inspected the damage, coordinated repairs, and returned the planes to service. In 6 months, he had learned to read battle damage like a language. He knew what flak tears looked like on aluminum skin. He knew how bullet holes clustered. He knew which damage was fatal and which was theatrical. On the evening of March 15th, he sat at a corner table in the officers' club, nominally off-limits to enlisted personnel. But his presence was tolerated because he was popular and supported the pilots as they processed the day's losses. Captain Holt was already a bit tipsy, talking about a B-17 he couldn't save. "They smell wounded planes," Holt said, "like sharks smell blood. How do you fight an enemy who won't engage unless they have the advantage?" Weiss listened idly, sketching something on a napkin, an old nervous habit. He drew a P-47 but added theatrical battle damage, smoke trails from the engine that didn't look quite real, bullet holes that were too symmetrical. It was a caricature, a cartoonish depiction of damage. Then his pencil stopped. He stared at the napkin, at the fake damage he had drawn. "What if we make them think they have the advantage?" Weiss said quietly. Holt didn't hear him. Weiss said louder, "Captain, what if we make them think they have the advantage now?" Holt looked up, annoyed. "What the hell are you talking about, Sergeant?" Weiss slid the napkin across the table. "Your P-47, flying escort, but painted to look damaged. Smoking, theatrical smoke, not real. Painted bullet holes, stage wounds. Flying like it's crippled. Lagging behind, looking weak." Holt's eyes narrowed. "It's camouflage in reverse. It's a decoy." "Exactly," Weiss said. "And when they come for what they think is easy prey." He sketched 6 more P-47s diving from altitude. The trap would close. Holt was silent for a long time. "So you want to turn escort fighters into decoys?" "I want to turn our strengths into their weaknesses," Weiss said. "They hunt wounded animals. We'll give them a wounded animal with teeth." The next morning, Weiss expected to be ridiculed in the briefing room. Instead, Lieutenant Colonel Dickman listened silently through his entire presentation. Then he uttered 6 words that changed everything. Show me. You have 48 hours. Weiss took over a corner of Hangar 7 and 3 P-47s slated for routine maintenance. He assembled his team. Corporal Tommy Chen, a former Disney animator, Private First Class Marcus Wright, a theatrical makeup artist from Harlem, and Staff Sergeant Irene Kowalski, of the Women's Army Corps, who had worked in her father's auto shop in Detroit. What they created over the next 2 days was part art, part engineering, part stage magic. The first challenge, painted damage, wouldn't fool anyone up close. Weiss needed three-dimensional realism that worked from 500 yards. Wright suggested cellulose acetate sheets, clear theatrical gel, thermoformed and painted to look like damaged aluminum, then attached with quick-release fasteners. From a distance, they were indistinguishable from real battle damage. Up close, they popped off in seconds. The second challenge, smoke trails. Real engine damage produced thick, black smoke. Weiss reverse-engineered German smoke generator systems from a captured Bf-109, creating an under-fuselage pod that produced theatrical smoke on command, white or black, controlled from the cockpit. The smoke looked wrong to a trained mechanic, but perfect to a fighter pilot 3,000 yards away deciding whether to attack. The third challenge, selling the illusion through behavior. A damaged plane didn't just look different, it flew differently. Weiss created a checklist of actions. Reduce speed by 40 mm, gradually lose altitude, occasionally feather one propeller, fly slightly out of trim. Captain Holt practiced this technique, mimicking the flight of a damaged plane while maintaining full combat readiness. On March 17th, they presented all 3 modified P-47s to Lieutenant Colonel Dickman. He walked around them, examining every detail. He touched the fake damaged panels. He watched the smoke generators cycle. He said nothing. Finally, this violates the laws of war. False flag operations, flying under false pretenses. We're not changing our insignia, Weiss interrupted, then remembered rank. Sir, we're still clearly American planes. We're just exaggerating our condition. This is completely contrary to doctrine, Dickman continued. Fighters are offensive weapons, not bait. Sir, with all due respect, the Germans made our bombers bait, Captain Holt said. We're just returning the favor. Imagine a situation where every wound, every malfunction of your aircraft, instead of eliciting sympathy and help, turns into a signal for the enemy. Easy prey. What if the very rules of engagement meant to protect became a deadly trap? Many pilots died exactly this way until one incredible idea emerged, and you might not even realize that similar principles of deception are applied in your life, but more on that later. This story began with a simple, yet revolutionary statement. We're just returning the favor. These were the very words uttered when Lieutenant Colonel Dickman, deep in thought, finally turned to his operations officer. He asked the key question: how long would it take to familiarize an entire squadron with these unusual tactical methods? The answer was brief and unequivocal. 48 hours, sir. Do it, Dickman ordered, his voice filled with determination. But no one outside this hangar is to know about it. Not other squadrons, not intelligence, not even God himself. If it works, we'll expand the program. If it fails... His gaze rested on Sergeant Weiss, the creator of this risky scheme. Then this sergeant will spend the rest of the war painting numbers on latrines. Weiss swallowed hard, realizing the gravity of the situation. Understood, sir, he replied, "And one more thing," Dickman added. "I want to lead the first mission. Stay with us and watch till the end, because this story is full of unexpected twists. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription. And of course, don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching us from. As is often the case with truly revolutionary ideas, the secret leaked faster than the most strictly classified data. In less than 72 hours, rumors of the crazy decoy scheme in the 359th Fighter Group reached Colonel Zemke of the 56th Fighter Group. He immediately went in person to verify the reports. Zemke carefully watched the demonstration flight. 3 damaged P-47s limped heavily through the sky, emitting smoke and wobbling unsteadily. 8 more P-47s circled at 15,000 feet, remaining completely invisible from below. The decoys worked flawlessly, creating the illusion of wounded birds, irresistible targets for the enemy. Stay with us and watch till the end to find out how this daring venture concluded. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription, and of course don't forget to write in the comments where you're watching us from. Upon landing, Zemke immediately intercepted Lieutenant Colonel Dickman. He asked a direct question. "Is the 8th Fighter Command aware of this yet?" Dickman replied without hesitation, "Not yet, sir, because they would stop it immediately." "That's exactly what I figured, sir," Zemke confirmed, deep in thought. He was not just a commander, but a true legend of the European theater, the most successful fighter ace with 17. 75 confirmed aerial victories. His name was synonymous with rewritten tactical doctrine, and his opinion could either make or break a career. "I want in," Zemke declared, making his decision. "This is either brilliant or a court-martial. Either way, I want my group involved before headquarters buries the idea." March 20th was the day of reckoning. Fighter Command dispatched Major General William Kepner and a full staff of 12 officers to thoroughly evaluate the program before deciding whether to green-light it or ban it forever. Everyone gathered in the crowded briefing room at Bodney Airfield. Squadron commanders, intelligence officers, U.S. Army Air Forces legal personnel, and of course a highly agitated technical sergeant who seemed to be regretting every life choice that had led him to this tense moment, were all present. Weiss presented his concept: simulated damage, theatrical smoke, masterful flight performance, and ambush tactics. He skillfully used terms like deceptive engagement protocol and asymmetric response strategy, as they sounded far more military than simply saying, "We're going to trick them with paint and lure them into a trap." However, the legal officer immediately interrupted him, stating, "This constitutes perfidy under Article 23 of the Hague Convention. The use of false distress signals to lure an enemy is explicitly forbidden." Weiss countered, "We are not using distress signals. We are not resorting to false flag operations. We are using camouflage. Deceptive camouflage, but camouflage nonetheless. Camouflage makes you less visible. This makes you liars," the lawyer retorted. The room instantly erupted. 16 officers spoke at once, voices rising. Some supported the idea, anything to stop the losses. Others condemned it. "We are not Nazis. We do not use deception." The debate split along predictable lines. Combat officers eager to try it, staff officers eager to bury the initiative. General Kepner allowed the argument to continue for about 3 minutes. Then he stood, and a complete silence fell over the room. "Gentlemen," "I have a question for the legal officer," Kepner began. "When the Germans developed tactics specifically targeting our damaged aircraft, did they violate any convention?" The lawyer replied, "No, sir. Targeting the wounded is unsportsmanlike, but not illegal." "And when we paint our aircraft to resemble damaged ones, are we engaging in deception?" The general continued. "Sir, like any camouflage scheme in military history." The lawyer tried to object, but Kepner cut him off sharply. "This is different because it makes the enemy uncomfortable, not us." Kepner's voice was ice cold. "The Germans have turned our wounded into death traps. They weaponized compassion. And you're telling me we can't respond because it's unsportsmanlike?" The legal officer had no answer. Kepner then turned to Captain Holt. "You've flown this profile. Can you maintain combat effectiveness?" "Yes, sir. Full defensive capability, full offensive capability. We're just playing a role," Holt replied confidently. "Colonel Zemke, your assessment," the general stated. Zemke rose. "Sir, this is the first truly innovative tactical development I've seen since arriving in theater. Fighter Command has been reactive for 18 months, responding to German innovations, adapting to German tactics. This is proactive. This makes them react to us. I recommend immediate authorization for limited trials." Kepner slowly nodded. "Limited trials, 3 missions. If losses exceed standard escort mission rates, we cancel. If we don't achieve significantly better kill ratios, we cancel. If the Germans adapt and the advantage disappears, we cancel." He looked directly at Dickman. "But if this works, Colonel, I want every fighter group in the 8th Air Force trained on this protocol within 30 days. A complete silence fell over the room. "One last thing," Kepner said, looking at Weiss. "Sergeant, you're the artist who designed this." "Yes, sir," Weiss replied. "Do you understand that if this fails, men will die because of your idea?" Weiss's voice was calm and steady. "Sir, men die every day because we don't have ideas. I'd rather try something than try nothing." Kepner offered a barely perceptible smile. "Proceed." It was March 22nd, 1944. Mission 250. Target: the ball-bearing factories in Schweinfurt. The 359th Fighter Squadron launched 12 P-47 Thunderbolts. 4 of them were specially modified decoy aircraft. The other 8 served as hunters. Captain Holt led the decoy element. His P-47, meticulously painted with fake bullet holes across its fuselage and equipped with smoke generators, took a position 2,000 yards behind the bomber stream. He throttled back to 180 miles per hour, dangerously slow for a combat sortie, but perfect for simulating battle damage. Then he activated the smoke generator. White vapor streamed from his engine cowling, visible for miles. At 24,000 feet, Lieutenant James Fisher circled with the hunter element, watching Holt's performance through binoculars. "He looks genuinely shot up," Fisher radioed. "If I didn't know the truth, I'd be calling for rescue right now." They didn't have to wait long. At 1347, German radar operators in Stade reported damaged American fighter lagging behind formation, losing altitude. The report reached Jagdgeschwader 1, Hauptmann Hannes Behr Trautloft, an ace with 179 confirmed victories, launched 6 Bf-109s. It was standard doctrine: easy prey, minimal risk, a boost to morale. Imagine this scenario. You're doing what you've always done, following proven rules, and suddenly everything goes wrong. What seemed like easy prey turns into a deadly trap. Do you know that feeling when your confidence shatters against an unexpected reality? Today we'll tell you about a tactic that deceived an entire army making them doubt every single step. In this video, we'll uncover the secret of one of the most audacious deceptions of World War II, which not only saved hundreds of lives, but also fundamentally changed aerial combat. And the very first example will show how this was possible. Stay with us and watch until the end, because what you're about to learn will change your perception of war and strategy. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription, and of course let us know in the comments where you're watching this video from. The standard doctrine of the German Air Force dictated easy target, minimal risk, morale boost. This exact scenario unfolded on March 21st, 1944. A Luftwaffe pilot, known as Bear, spotted Holt from 8 miles away. The smoking P-47 swayed slightly, slowly descending towards the cloud cover. The behavior of the wounded aircraft was flawless, just like out of a textbook. Bear didn't hesitate. He led his formation into an attacking position. 6 fighters against 1 crippled American. At 12,000 feet, Holt maintained the illusion of a damaged aircraft. He saw the German formation above and behind him, maneuvering for the kill. His right hand rested on the throttle, his left gripped the stick tightly. Every instinct screamed, "Get out! Run! Fight!" But instead he continued his wounded bird act, trusting that the 8 P-47s he couldn't see were watching. We've only just begun to delve into this incredible story, and you won't want to miss a single detail. Stay with us and watch until the end, because it's only going to get more interesting. We'd be especially grateful for a like and a subscription, and of course, let us know in the comments where you're watching this video from. The German fighters began their dive. Bear lined up his target, closing the distance to 400 yards. Easy pickings. He had already shot down 179 Allied aircraft. This one was to be his 180th. Then Lieutenant Fisher's voice crackled over the radio. Now. Holt slammed the throttle forward. The damaged P-47 instantly surged to full power. The smoke generator cut off, and suddenly, the aircraft was no longer wounded. It was a 2,500 horsepower fighter, flying at 400 miles per hour and gaining altitude. The fake damage panels were ripped away by the airflow. In 3 seconds, he transformed from prey to predator. The Germans had exactly 1 second to comprehend what was happening before 8 P-47s burst from behind the sun at 450 miles per hour, engines screaming at combat power. Bear banked sharply right, but it was too late. Fisher's first burst hit the left wing of his Bf-109, tearing away control surfaces. Bear was too good to die easily. He managed to make a controlled crash landing in a field near Osnabrück, but his wingman, Lieutenant Werner Schmidt, was not so lucky. 2 P-47s simultaneously bracketed him. His fighter disintegrated. The ambush lasted 90 seconds. When it was over, 4 German fighters were destroyed, 1 damaged. 1 pilot was killed, 3 were captured, 2 escaped. American losses, 0. Not a single bullet hole on any P-47. This stunning success could not go unnoticed. Onboard cameras captured incredible footage that left intelligence services scratching their heads, and this was just the beginning. Gun camera footage was studied for hours by intelligence officers who couldn't believe their eyes. A damaged aircraft that wasn't damaged at all, an ambush in the open sky, Germans flying straight into a trap. They should have seen it coming. Within 48 hours, Hermann Bear was interrogated by Luftwaffe intelligence. His report was circulated to every fighter group in Germany. American fighters are now employing deception tactics. Aircraft exhibiting battle damage may be fully combat-capable decoys for an ambush. Extreme caution is advised when engaging seemingly damaged enemies. But even the most urgent warning couldn't stop the wave of change already set in motion, because the new threat was spreading faster than any directive. However, the warning came too late. The tactic was already spreading rapidly. On March 24th, 3 decoy missions over Bremen resulted in 6 German fighters destroyed and 2 more probable kills. American losses were 1 P-47 with minor damage from flak. On March 27th, 2 decoy missions protecting B-24 bombers flying to Mannheim resulted in 8 German fighters destroyed with 0 American losses. On March 29th, in a massive coordinated operation involving 6 squadrons already trained in decoy tactics, 12 decoy aircraft flew through the bomber stream. The Luftwaffe lost 17 fighters, and American bomber losses were the lowest in 3 months. The data became undeniable. Before the decoy tactic, from January to March 15, 1944, average bomber losses per mission were 2%. The average fighter kill ratio was 3.1 German kills to American, and straggler survival was 27%. After the decoy tactic was implemented, from March 22 to April 15, 1944, average bomber losses per mission dropped to 8%. The fighter kill ratio shifted to 7.1 in favor of the Americans, and straggler survival soared to 73%. These numbers spoke for themselves, but the real blow was to the enemy's morale, which began to experience something far more destructive than direct losses. The 39th Fighter Squadron alone claimed 40 confirmed kills in 30 days, a feat that typically took half a year. More importantly, bomber crews reported that German fighters hesitated, reconsidered attacks, and broke off engagements that would previously have been aggressive pursuits. German pilot Lieutenant Klaus Hartmann, captured on April 3rd, told interrogators, "We can no longer trust our eyes. What looks weak may be strong. What looks wounded may be a trap. We are told to be aggressive, but how can we be aggressive when aggression leads to an ambush? They have turned our tactics against us." The psychological impact matched the tactical success. German fighters began to completely avoid aircraft that appeared damaged, meaning truly damaged bombers survived more often. The Luftwaffe's Wolf Pack doctrine, so effective for 4 months, collapsed in 3 weeks. By April 15th, every fighter group in the 8th Fighter Command had at least one squadron trained in decoy operations. The tactical innovation spread to the 9th Air Force, then to the Royal Air Force, and later to the Mediterranean theater. Technical Sergeant Daniel Weiss oversaw a secret workshop in Hangar 7, training crews in the art of deception, teaching them to make strength look like weakness. He taught them that sometimes the best camouflage isn't hiding, but lying. The tactic, born of cunning, not only saved lives, but also permanently etched the names of its creators into the history of military thought, leaving behind a legacy studied for generations. The impact of this single innovation saved approximately 180 bomber crewmen in just 30 days. Final statistics compiled after VE Day tell a story that tactical manuals have studied for generations. Between March 22, 1945 and May 8, 1945, decoy-equipped squadrons achieved 247 confirmed kills with a 6.2 kill ratio in their favor, the highest of any tactical innovation in the European theater. Approximately 890 bomber crewmen survived missions they statistically should not have, directly attributable to the reduced German aggression caused by the decoy tactic. But the human stories were more significant than the dry statistics. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Dickman, who authorized the first trial, retired as a brigadier general in 1963. In his unpublished memoirs, he wrote, For years, we developed better armor, better armament, better engines. A sergeant with an art education and a napkin outdid all of it with paint and psychology. The best weapon is often the one the enemy least expects. Captain James Red Holt flew the first decoy mission, and then 47 more. He survived the war with 12 confirmed kills and the Distinguished Flying Cross. In 1987, speaking at the Air Force Museum, he said, "People ask if I was scared flying decoy, brother. Every mission was scary. But this one gave me control. I wasn't hoping the Germans would miss. I was making sure they saw me. There's power in that." Hub Zemke, the legendary commander who championed the tactic, called it the most innovative use of psychological warfare he witnessed in combat. His fighter groups adopted the decoy tactic as standard operating procedure, spreading the technique throughout the 8th Air Force. And Daniel Weiss, the Brooklyn artist turned tactical revolutionary, was awarded the Legion of Merit for exceptionally meritorious conduct in the performance of outstanding services. His citation, classified until 1991, described his work only as developing advanced camouflage techniques. He requested a transfer back to regular crew chief duties and refused promotion to officer rank 3 times. Have you ever considered that the most obvious things can turn out to be the most cunning trick? That visible weakness sometimes conceals indestructible power. Human perception tends to trust its own eyes. But what if precisely in this trust lies the potential for deception, which can be the key to success? Many people are prone to making critical mistakes without even realizing their existence, and the price of such delusions can be exorbitantly high. However, there is a unique approach that can transform this vulnerability into an undeniable advantage. Today, we will delve into an amazing story that will radically change your understanding of conflict situations and strategic thinking. This is a narrative about how a man whose professional life was far from military battles, an ordinary advertising specialist, was able to influence the outcome of a war by applying his deep knowledge of human perception. Stay with us and watch until the end to learn all the details of this incredible story. We would be especially grateful for a like and a subscription. And of course, don't forget to write in the comments where you are watching us from. It is very important to us. In a world dominated by belief in technological superiority and brute force, this man showed that true power lies in the ability to manipulate what the enemy sees and believes. His invention became a vivid example of an asymmetric tactical response, demonstrating how, with just cunning, one can force an enemy to reconsider their doctrine without any technological superiority. And, most surprisingly, this idea was so simple and brilliant that it remains relevant to this day, inspiring modern armed forces. This was Daniel Weiss, the sergeant who refused promotion to officer rank 3 times. After the war ended, Weiss returned to his former job in the advertising industry. He never publicly discussed the simulated damage program. When a military historian tracked him down in 1989, Weiss gave a brief interview. He explained his approach. "I just solved a visual problem. The Germans were looking for damaged planes. We showed them damaged planes. There was nothing brilliant about it. You just had to understand what people see and what actually exists. Advertising taught me that. You want people to see what you want to show them." When asked if he was proud of the innovation, Weiss replied, "I'm proud we saved lives, but I'm not proud that it was necessary at all." The simulated damage program remained classified until 1991. Stay with us and watch until the end to learn all the details of this incredible story. We would be especially grateful for a like and a subscription. And of course, don't forget to write in the comments where you are watching us from. It is very important to us. Modern air forces still study this case as a prime example of asymmetric tactics. It demonstrates how deception can force an adversary to change their doctrine without any technological superiority. For instance, the Israeli Air Force successfully employed similar techniques in 1973, and the U.S. Navy used dummy ship silhouettes during the Persian Gulf War. But perhaps the most significant legacy of this idea emerged from a completely unexpected source. A letter written in June 1945 by B-17 pilot Lieutenant Robert McIntyre, addressed to Daniel Weiss. Dear Sergeant Weiss, you don't know me, and I don't know you, but on April 7, 1944, my bomber was hit by flak over Magdeburg. We lost 2 engines and fell behind the formation. I requested fighters, not expecting them to arrive. Instead, 3 P-47s appeared, painted to look as damaged as we were. The Germans closed in. Your fighters were waiting. They shot down 4 before the rest fled. All 10 members of our crew returned home. Thanks to paint, thanks to deception, thanks to someone realizing that looking weak while being strong is sometimes the best way to be strong. My Baltimore girl and I are getting married next month. We'll have children. They'll have children of their own. And it's all because you looked at camouflage differently. I'll never meet you, but I wanted you to know. Your idea didn't just save planes. It saved the future. Thank you. Lieutenant Robert McIntyre, 381st Bomb Group. Innovations in warfare rarely come from those who are expected to deliver them. They are born from outsiders who can see problems from a different angle because their thinking is unburdened by established methods. A commercial artist looked at aerial combat and saw a problem of visual deception. Experienced fighter pilots in the same situation saw only tactical limitations. Daniel Weiss's genius lay not in technical knowledge, but in his perceptual ability. He understood that war is as much about what the enemy believes as it is about what actually exists. The Germans were convinced that damaged planes were vulnerable. Weiss turned this conviction into their weakness. This lesson extends far beyond World War II. In any conflict, the side that controls perception controls the battlefield. The strongest position does not always mean demonstrating strength. Sometimes it means making the enemy believe in your weakness until you prove otherwise. 40 German fighters fell for the trick of painted damage and theatrical smoke in just 1 month. They believed their eyes. And someone realized that this belief could be weaponized. This is not just a tactical innovation. It is an understanding of the deepest truth of conflict. The most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. And sometimes the most powerful weapon is a sketch on a napkin, made by a person from whom no one expected any change.